Have you ever been stuck in traffic, inching along on a crowded highway, wondering if there's a better way? You're not alone. For generations, we've been lied to. We've been told that the solution to our traffic woes is more highways. Just build more lanes and everyone can get where they're going faster. It's a simple idea that shaped our cities and our lives. But there's a problem. More lanes don't actually solve traffic. In fact, they often make it worse. This counterintuitive phenomenon known as induced demand. When we add new lanes to a highway, we're not just accommodating existing traffic, we're creating more of it. As driving becomes easier and faster, more people choose to drive. New developments spring up along the expanded road, generating even more trips. Before long, new lanes are just as congested as the old ones. This isn't just a theory, it's been observed time and time again. In Houston, the Katy Freeway was expanded to 26 lanes at a cost of $2.8 billion. Within a few years, travel times had increased by 30% during the morning commute and 55% in the evening. Induced demand is like trying to solve obesity by loosening your belt. It might provide temporary relief, but it doesn't address the root cause. Instead of solving our transportation problems, highway expansion just kicks the can down the road, quite literally. In the 1950s and 60s, highways were sold as a symbol of progress. They promised to connect cities, reduce congestion, and pave the way for a new era of growth. But for many communities, the reality was far different. Highways tore through the heart of cities, destroying homes, businesses, and communities. They displaced thousands of residents, disproportionately impacting communities of color and low-income neighborhoods. The construction of urban highways was often rooted in racism and discrimination. They were used as tools of urban renewal, a polite term for the forced displacement of minority communities. In cities like Detroit, New Orleans, and Richmond, highways were deliberately routed through black neighborhoods, destroying cultural and economic centers. But the damage didn't stop there. Highways also brought a host of environmental and health problems to the neighborhoods they passed through. Residents living near highways are exposed to higher levels of air pollution, leading to increased rates of asthma, heart disease, and other illnesses. The constant noise and vibration from traffic can cause stress and sleep disturbances. Highways also take a toll on local economies. They occupy valuable land that could be used for housing, businesses, or green space. They make it harder for residents to access jobs and services. But what if there was another way? In Colorado, leaders are charting a new course for transportation planning that prioritizes people over cars. In 2019, Governor Jared Polis signed a law requiring the state to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transportation by 90% in 30 years. To meet this goal, the Transportation Commission adopted a groundbreaking rule in 2021. It ties funding for transportation projects to their ability to reduce emissions. In other words, if a project makes climate change worse, it won't get funded. This shift is transforming Colorado's urban landscape. Within a year of the rule's adoption, the Department of Transportation canceled 2 major highway expansions and shifted $100 million into transit projects. In Denver, a regional planning body reallocated $900 million from highway expansions to multimodal projects. Instead of expanding roads, the state is investing in transit, bike lanes, and pedestrian-friendly streets. CDOT has allocated $170 million for bus rapid transit in Denver and $120 million for a statewide bus service over the next decade. Plans are underway for 3 rapid bus routes, including an 18-mile line along Federal Boulevard, set to break ground in 2027. Colorado isn't the only place embracing highway removal. Across the country and around the world, cities are tearing down highways and seeing amazing results. Take Rochester, New York. They're tackling the Inner Loop, a highway that's divided the city for decades. They've already removed part of it, freeing up 6 acres of land and sparking $400 million in private investment. Now they're planning an even bigger $100 million project to remove another 1.5 miles, which will create 22 acres for new development and green spaces. This isn't just about roads, it's about reconnecting neighborhoods that were torn apart years ago. This project will add more green space, create safer streets for pedestrians and cyclists, cyclists, and give residents a say in shaping their community's future. In Seoul, South Korea, they didn't just fill in a highway, they uncovered an entire stream. The Cheonggyecheon stream had been buried under concrete for decades. Now, it's a beautiful 3.6-mile park running through the heart of the city. The results are incredible. Biodiversity increased by 639% in just 5 years. The park is cooling down the city. Temperatures near the stream are 3.3 degrees lower than before. And get this, it attracts about 64,000 visitors every day. It's been great for business too. Property values near the stream shot up by 30 to 50%, double the rate of increase in other parts of Seoul. The number of businesses in the area grew 3.5%, while the rest of downtown Seoul saw a decline. In San Francisco, they turned a disaster into an opportunity. When the 1989 earthquake damaged the Embarcadero Freeway, they decided to tear it down instead of rebuilding. The results were remarkable. Property values in the area increased by 300%. The number of homes went up by 51% and jobs grew by 23%. They opened up over 100 acres of prime waterfront land that had been hidden under concrete. Now it's a bustling area with a public plaza, a waterfront promenade, and thriving businesses. And guess what? Removing the freeway and building a new boulevard cost less than $50 million. That's cheaper than fixing the old highway would have been. Plus, annual subway ridership went up by 15%, showing that when you give people options, they use them. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. One of the biggest hurdles in highway removal projects is the fear that taking away roads will lead to epic gridlock. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember that magic trick called induced demand we talked about earlier? Well, it works in reverse too. Take Seattle's Alaskan Way Viaduct, for example. When they closed this major highway in 2019, everyone braced for traffic megadon. But guess what? It never came. Instead, the number of vehicles entering downtown Seattle during peak morning hours dropped by a whopping 2,600. People didn't just vanish into thin air. They adapted. About 20% of commuters changed their travel times, 20% switched to public transit, and others started carpooling or working from home. It's like the old saying goes, don't widen the road, shorten the commute. By removing highways and creating more connected street grids, we give drivers more options. The movement to remove highways is gaining momentum, thanks in part to new support from federal government. President Biden's infrastructure bill, signed into law in 2023, includes $20 billion for projects that reconnect communities divided by highways. The bill prioritizes projects in disadvantaged communities and requires robust community engagement. It also incentivizes states to adopt policies like those in Colorado, tying funding to emissions-reduced and multimodal transportation. With this new funding, cities across the country are developing plans to remove highways and create more equitable, sustainable communities. From New Orleans to Detroit to Seattle, projects are moving forward that could transform neighborhoods and improve lives. Colorado's experience shows what's possible when states and cities work together to reimagine transportation by aligning funding with climate and equity goals. The state is charting a new course for highway removal, one that other states can follow, envisioning a highway-free future. What would our cities look like without highways? It's a question that once seemed impossible to answer, but it's happening now. Instead of massive concrete structures funneling traffic to a few congested points, picture a network of interconnected streets spreading vehicles across multiple routes. This is the future. Smart traffic management systems further optimize this flow. Adaptive signals adjust in real time to traffic conditions, keeping vehicles moving efficiently through intersections. With more frequent crossroads, trips become more direct, often reducing overall travel distances. Public transit thrives in this environment too. Buses and light rail, unhampered by highway on-ramps and off-ramps, provide faster, more reliable service. This encourages more people to leave their cars at home, further easing road congestion. Most importantly, this future is more just and equitable. By removing the barriers highways created, we begin to heal old wounds. We build communities where everyone has access to opportunity, regardless of race, income, or zip code. But to make this vision a reality everywhere, we need to rethink not just our roads, but our priorities and our spending. The way we build our transportation systems shapes how we live. If we build only for cars, people will drive. But if we create safe ways to walk, bike, and use public transit, people will use those options. It's about giving people real choices. And here's the thing, these choices can save us money in the long run. Americans spent a staggering $1.8 trillion on transportation in 2022, with the average new car costing over $12,000 a year to own and operate. Add to that the $340 billion cost cost of crashes in 2019, and it's clear our current system is incredibly expensive. But there's hope. Investing in alternatives like bike lanes or high-speed rail might seem costly up front, but it can lead to significant savings over time. It's not just about building infrastructure, it's about building a future with lower individual costs, fewer crashes, and healthier communities. This transformation won't happen overnight. It starts in our own neighborhoods, with small changes that add up to big impacts. It requires us to speak up about what we want for our communities. Beijing has done the opposite of this, and has constructed 7 ring roads, the most in the world. If you want to learn about the problems this has caused, click here to watch.